my pocket.
I'm Joe Scarborough, and welcome to Battleground America. You're watching MSNBC's continuing all-out coverage of Decision 2006. Right now, Americans across the country are taking part in the midterm elections that could change the balance of power in Washington. And with just hours to go before the polls start closing, problems and long lines are cropping up at polls nationwide. Now, one dramatic race is for the Senate. And it's, of course, one of the most dramatic races for the Senate, and control of the Senate is taking place in the state of Tennessee. Republican Bob Corker has been battling Democratic Congressman Harold Ford Jr. for that seat. It's been held by Majority Leader Bill Frist. And it's been one of the most heated campaigns of this entire election season. Not long ago, I got the chance to check in with my old friend and colleague from our days together in Congress, Harold Ford. And I asked Harold how things were going to turn out for him.
We feel good about it for two reasons. The desire and appetite for change is strong here, but there's a greater appetite here. There's an appetite for government working again and for results being delivered to just everyday hard-working people, be it a minimum wage increase, be it a way to lower health costs, or even a better strategy on the ground in Iraq. People aren't looking for Democrats or Republicans, they're looking for leaders. And we've organized our campaign around that premise of solving problems, of answering questions, and taking our campaign to any part of this state, to any arena, any sphere, any restaurant, any club, any organization that would invite us. And here we are, 7 hours before polls close. This race is a dead heat. It boils down to turnout, and we feel very good about our operation.
Well, you know, Harold, when people ask me throughout the course of your campaign if you were really that moderate or if you were just trying to play to Tennessee voters, I talked about the time you got me in big trouble on the Education Committee because you were always coming up with bills that reached across party lines, and you went first to Republicans. Of course, that goes against Karl Rove's strategy. He believes America is divided. He wants to get his base out. Are you finding that there are disaffected voters in the middle who want to vote for people like you?
There are a lot of Republicans all across this state who are not only lining up with us, but visibly and forcibly working with us. I say forcibly because they're working to try to change the mind of many of their Republican friends. Like I said, we've organized this campaign around a leadership principle. Hadn't been a Democrat principle, but we believe that Washington deserves some better leadership, including Tennessee. And I think that's why we're going to win. I think the polls that have been run really haven't factored in the number of people that voted early in this state. Almost 870,000 people voted early, 867 to be exact. We feel good about our performance there. Where I'm from in Memphis, in West Tennessee, voter turnout was up 80% over what it was 2 years ago. And I just don't believe those people were rushing to the polls to vote for the status quo. They were voting for leadership and they were voting for change. So we feel good about where we are. We got 7 more hours to go. We're going to leave here and not let up until the last poll closes here.
And when you break those numbers down, you're talking about 40% of the voters in the volunteer state have already come out. They've already cast their votes, a lot of them casting votes before Corker had sort of that last-minute surge, which you've now answered. Do you think there's enough early voters out there to carry you over the top tonight?
I think there are enough voters, period, in this state who want change, who know we can be better, and who are not going to fall for the smut and the sleaze and the slime that nationally, I think, unfortunately, the Republican National Committee tried to pour on us here in this state. They just underestimated our decency and goodness here. We still have 7 hours to go, but I got to tell you, I feel real good as I'm about to eat this cheeseburger and get on out of here and get back campaigning across the state here at the Little Rebel.
Well, that's great. You talk about the RNC ads, and you know, the first time I saw that ad of that woman saying, "Hey, call me, Harold," I laughed because it was so obviously a throwback to, unfortunately, a lot of things you heard from in Northwest Florida from the Klan, who would say, "Watch out, white men. If you get black men out on the streets, they're going to prey on your women." I can't believe that the RNC actually ran that ad, first of all. And secondly, I can't believe that it didn't offend a great number of voters in Tennessee. Certainly offended me as a Republican. And what's been the response to that ad? And do you think in the end that sleazy attack actually helped you?
Well, 74% of people that responded, and take the average of 3 or 4 polls, all said they disapprove of the ad here in Tennessee. I don't know if the ad had a racial dimension to it or not, but I do know this. It was just inappropriate It was sleazy. It was slimy. People watched it while they were trying to sit at home with their children and have dinner and have family time, and it just wasn't the right thing to do. Second, the ad lied on my position on guns. It lied on my position on abortion. It lied on my position on terrorism. And so they tried to be slick, and they tried to be smooth. The things they've tried to accuse me of, that's exactly what they were trying to achieve in that ad. And we're going to find out in the next 7 hours just how much people in this state have rejected that. One of the other winners tonight, I think, after we win, will be the fact that we in Tennessee will nail or put one of the nails in that coffin. It says that negative campaigning, deceitful campaigning, dishonest campaigning ought to come to an end. People ought to debate the issues, focus on the substance, and deal with the things that people have to confront in their day-to-day lives. That's the other reason I'm so excited about what's going to happen here in Tennessee in the next 7-8 hours.
And finally, Harold, another thing that excited me about your campaign, as I've said all along in the tank for you, is you were, unlike most Democrats that I know in Washington, that I've known in Congress, that I've seen on the national stage, you're not afraid to say the word God. I've always said if Democrats were not ashamed of their faith or of their religion, then they'd do much better with voters who, again, don't want it shoved down their throat. They don't want Ted Haggard preaching at them, but at the same time, they want to know that faith is important in the lives of their elected officials. Was that a tough decision for you to make? Did you have a lot of pressure from the some Democratic consultants not to sit in the church and actually talk about how important faith was in your life?
Not really, largely because, I'm a co-founder along with Mark Green of the Faith Bates Caucus in the Congress. So this has never been an issue for me, talking about my faith and talking about how I love Jesus. I would feel uncomfortable if I couldn't talk about it. So it's never been an issue for me. And frankly, on paper, this race doesn't make a lot of sense to a lot of people. But we've had a great campaign manager. I have a great campaign chairman. But the real guiding force in this campaign has been my Lord and Savior, because we shouldn't be where we are in the minds of a lot of people. I don't pray that God is on my side. I just pray I'm doing right by Him. And we've tried our hardest throughout this campaign to be honest, to be upfront, to be direct, and to talk about the things that I learned in Sunday school and in church. And that's to be honest with people, to try to bring people together and to do God's work. And we got a lot of work to do.
Well, Harold,
developing public policy.
A year ago, when you talked about running in the Senate race in the state of Tennessee, a lot of my friends rolled their eyes, and you are right. You shouldn't be where you are right now, but you obviously are.
I serve a big God. I serve an enormously big God.
Yeah, and it has shown throughout this campaign. Hey, Harold, good luck, and regardless of the results tonight, I know I'm proud of you, and there are a lot of people that have worked with you and known you throughout your life that are proud of you. You've run an extraordinary campaign.
Thank you, brother. Let's go on to victory. Thank you.
All right. Talk soon. Now, other than Tennessee, of course, there are a lot of other hot races that are going down to the wire, and we've got those covered also. Let's go to Virginia right now, where voting problems could see a hotly contested race fall into chaos over allegations of voter intimidation. Seems like some folks have been getting suspicious calls, asking where they voted and who they voted for. And that led to election officials in Virginia contacting the FBI. Let's go to Virginia right now and turn to Hardball's David Schuster. He's in Richmond, Virginia. David, we're going to talk about that in a minute. But first, let's talk about voter turnout. I understand it is very heavy in the Commonwealth of Virginia. And you just talked to the Secretary of State. What's the word down there?
Well, Joe, Gene Jensen, the Secretary of the State Board of Elections, says that by noon today, they already had 30% of all registered voters vote. She says that is extraordinary because when you go back to the last congressional midterm election in 2002, the total for the entire day was just less than 40%. So based on what she's hearing from the poll workers across the state, Jensen believes that turnout will be around 65% of all registered voters, which would be extraordinary, she said, because in the 2004 presidential election, which had the highest turnout in Virginia history, turnout for that race was just a little bit higher at 71%. In addition, Jensen says that the election overall is running smoothly. They have not had many major computer glitches, a couple isolated problems here and there. But Joe, as you know, the significance of heavy voter turnout is we've already had one campaign worker for George Allen who said to us away from the cameras that if turnout is this heavy, that is awful news for the incumbent George Allen, simply because, as you know, Joe, when incumbents are in some trouble and turnout is very high, that turnout usually means that the challenger is going to get most of those votes. But in any case, Democrats' confidence is rising, and again, heavy turnout being reported by state officials here in Richmond. Joe?
All right, thank you so much, David Schuster, live in Richmond, Virginia. And of course, we can go back 2 years ago to the 2004 election. There's also heavy turnout on both sides. It looks like both parties have really gotten voter turnout, the whole Get Out the Vote campaign, down to a science. And it looks like, again, turnout's high. Now, 2 years ago, people also thought that heavy voter turnout would work against the Republican Party, but it ended up that Karl Rove and the Republicans actually made historic gains by getting their most loyal base out to the polls. The question tonight, and the question that we've got to be asking right now at 3:11 Eastern Standard Time, is whether the Democrats learned from what happened in 2004 and whether they matched the Republicans in the Get Out the Vote efforts. Chances are good they did. But lousy weather has a potential impact on voter turnout on this election day, and the weather is absolutely terrible in a few places. Let's check in right now with NBC WeatherPlus.com meteorologist Bill Cairns. Bill, kind of ugly out there in some places. Tell us about it.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of rain, Joe, in important states like Virginia and in Tennessee. We also got our eye now in Pennsylvania because the weather's starting to go downhill there. It will this afternoon and this evening in Philadelphia, too. Right now, currently, clouds are on the increase. The big cities are remaining dry, but that's not so for the whole state. Look at this area of green here from Erie, Pennsylvania, all across the New York border and northern Pennsylvania, especially the rural areas here. We do have a lot of rain that's moving in. And as we go throughout the later portions of this afternoon, when the polls are beginning to wrap up, a lot of people voting heavily, probably on the way home from work. We do expect more rain towards the Philadelphia area. Right now, Pittsburgh is looking okay. As we head over towards Philadelphia, right now, just some clouds increasing, some scattered showers. But, Joe, we do expect that heavier rain to move up from the south as we go throughout the late afternoon and the early evening.
Thanks so much, Bill Cairns. And, of course, Rick Santorum would love there to be a torrential downpour, a tsunami in Philadelphia, at least for the next 5 or 6 hours. And in Northwest Florida, where I'm from, the conservative bastion of the Republican Party in that state, also some very bad weather being reported there. Very bad news for the Republican Party. Great news for Democrats on the Senate, running for Senate, and also the gubernatorial race. Now, according to the Cook Political Report, you may not have to stay up too late tonight to figure out who wins. Take a look at this map. Since many of the key congressional races are in the Eastern and Central time zones, a good idea of the trend is going to be known early in the evening. That is, if everything goes smoothly. And of course, as we've learned from previous election nights, that's rarely the case, which makes it even more important that you stay with MSNBC all night as we wait for the returns to come in. Chris Matthews, Keith Oberman, and an all-star cast of correspondents and analysts will be here for as long as it takes to tell you who's going to be controlling the House, who's going to be controlling the Senate, and who's going to be controlling the future of our government in Washington, D.C. We'll be right back with continuing coverage of Decision 2006, only here on MSNBC.
MSNBC tops months of the best campaign coverage ever with the biggest night of election coverage ever. Williams, Russert, Matthews, and the most powerful political team with coverage that will not stop until you know who's in control of Congress. Election night, all night, right here on MSNBC, the place for politics.
Introducing Men's Rogaine Foam, the first and only foam that regrows hair. Easy to use, dries quickly. It could be the fastest part of your routine. New Men's Rogaine Foam. Use it or lose it.
Utility Select Sector Spider. Visit us on the web at sectorspdrs.com or call 1-800-THE-AMEX now.
There are over 14 million headaches happening in this country today. But too many go untreated, simply because we're away from home. So we created a fast, new way to get the pure pain relief of Tylenol. Introducing Tylenol Go Tabs. They're portable and chewable for fast headache relief, even away from home. It's one small step towards a pain-free world. Stop. Think. Tylenol Go Tabs.
Sonicare is a part of good overall health. Its patented technology creates dynamic cleaning action, getting deep between the teeth and along the gum line. Sonicare. Help take care of your body.
Ever get the feeling your advertising is reaching the wrong people? Comcast Spotlight can help. With dozens of networks to choose from, you can run your message only on the shows your customers are watching. You can even target your message geographically to reach your customers where they live. Comcast Spotlight. TV advertising without the waste.
For more information, call our Portland office.
Television that kids will want to watch.
Hey, I'm creepy. My mom is a praying mantis, my dad's a mosquito, and my whole family's just bugging.
Watch the brand new show, Growing Up Creepy, on Discovery Kids, Comcast Channel 121. Think you've seen it all? Think again. It's a brand new season of Endurance with Endurance High Sierras. Don't miss it, only on Discovery Kids, Comcast Channel 121. Comcast, entertaining the entire family.
Back to our continuing coverage, and now let's go to the three-way race in Connecticut, where Joe Lieberman is not taking his lead in the pre-election polls for granted. My colleague Chris Jansing is following that race from Hartford. Chris, tell us what you're hearing about voting problems in Connecticut and Joe Lieberman's comeback against Ned Lamont.
Yeah, it has been quite a comeback that he hopes to cap tonight. Of course, it would be as stunning, arguably, as what happened in the primary when he lost to Ned Lamont. A lot of people told him it would be virtually impossible to mount an independent run, but since losing that primary, Joe Lieberman has never been behind in the polls. And he's been crisscrossing the state this week, shaking a lot of hands. He was out a couple of times this morning and then voted around lunchtime, but he's taking the afternoon off before coming back to Hartford for what he hopes will be a victory party at a local hotel. Now, for his opponent, Ned Lamont, he is not giving up. He says he doesn't believe the polls. And in fact, he was up at the crack of dawn today. He was at a polling place casting his vote for himself a little after 7 o'clock in the morning, a race in which he has spent at least $16 million out of his own pocket. Look at his schedule, though, today. He is not stopping. He's got at least 10 stops around polling places where he just wants to go and remind voters that there is an alternative to Joe Lieberman. Now, what is really interesting about this race, it's not only one of the most watched in the country, but of course, it's one in which these two major candidates have not been supported by parties. And the same for the Republican candidate, who basically has never polled out of single digits, and that is Alan Schlesinger. One more thing, I checked with the Secretary of State's office a little while ago. They have been tracking 12 what they consider to be bellwether districts, and they said that right now they are polling about 30% ahead of where they were in 2002. So predictions that this will be a record-setting midterm election are looking to be the case. We have 1.9 million voters here in Connecticut. That is the highest it's ever been. Joe?
MSNBC's Chris Jansing in Connecticut. Thanks so much. And boy, I'll tell you what, both of these parties are really figuring out how to get every last voter out to the poll. Historic gains in 2004, and it looks like we're going to be looking at historic gains again in this midterm election. Well, Democrats are confident they're going to be able to take control of the House, but the fate of the Senate's a little less clear. NBC's Nora O'Donnell has a look at how some of the scenarios may play out tonight. Nora.
And good day to you, Joe. Take a look at this. The current balance of power in the United States Senate stands at 44 Democrats, 1 independent, and 55 Republicans. We know, of course, that the Democrats need 6 seats in order to take power. Now, here's where it gets interesting. What we have now on this map is look at the states in yellow. Of course, the left side is the Democrats, the right sides are the Republicans. These are the 10 seats that we're watching very closely. Now, Connecticut, for instance, we know Joe Lieberman, he's been ahead of his Democratic challenger. That puts 2 independents up there. The Democrats feel confident that they can hold on to Maryland, but it's tight. The Democrats feel confident they can hold on to New Jersey. This is why it's tough for the Republicans this year. Look how many states they have to defend on the Republican side. The Democrats feel confident in Ohio. The Democrats feel confident in Pennsylvania. They've had wide leads there. Rhode Island, it's very tight, but the Democrats want to win that seat. Montana, it's very tight, but the Democrats want to win that seat. What does that leave us? Tennessee, Missouri, and Virginia, the very important races. And look where we stand now, 47 to 48. Now, Tennessee. We know that the Republican is ahead in that seat. Missouri and Virginia. What happens if the Democrats take both of those seats? We'll turn them blue. 49-49. But, Joe, the two independents, right? They vote with the Democrats. That means 51-49. The Democrats are in power. Now, that's one scenario. Of course, there's a lot of different scenarios that could happen. Let's try this. What about, let's go back to Virginia and Missouri. What if the Democrats get Virginia? Let's turn that blue. But what if the Republicans hold Missouri? Let's turn that red. The two independents vote with the Democrats. It's 50-50. Guess what? Vice President Cheney breaks the tie. That's why this is pretty interesting.
Yeah, Vice President Cheney, of course, a man that moderates and independents love snuggling up to. I'm sure, Nora, you've just inspired Democrats across the country to rush out to the polls. Thanks so much, Nora O'Donnell, and congratulations. You've got that telestrator thing down.
I've been working on it.
You are the political equivalent, my friend, of John Madden. Thanks, Nora. Greatly appreciate it. Nora, of course, will be working the telestrator all night. It's absolutely fascinating to see how the balance of power is going to be moving back and forth throughout the evening. So the next question is, as we get past 2006, after Nora tells us who's going to win, is whether it's too soon to start thinking about 2008. We're going to be talking to Craig Crawford when we come back about, and we're going to talk about that, and make no mistake of it. Who wins tonight will impact who ultimately gets elected in 2008. We'll tell you why when we return with more coverage of Decision 2006, Battleground America, only here on MSNBC.
If you have a history of smoking and breathing problems, it could be COPD, which includes chronic bronchitis and emphysema. Discover Spiriva, the only once-daily inhaled maintenance prescription treatment for COPD. Spiriva keeps airways open to help you breathe better for a full 24 hours. And it's not a steroid. Spiriva does not replace fast-acting inhalers for sudden symptoms. Tell your doctor about your medicines, including eye drops and illnesses like glaucoma, urinary and prostate problems. These may worsen with Spiriva. The most common side effect is dry mouth. Others include constipation and problems passing urine. If you have vision changes or eye pain, your breathing suddenly worsens, you get hives, or your throat or tongue swells, stop taking Spiriva and contact your doctor. Spiriva is one of many treatment options to consider with your doctor. So make a habit of breathing better with Spiriva.
Cotlin Gardner is a real Geico customer, not an actor. So to help tell her story, we hired an actor.
My husband totaled our new SUV on my birthday.
But you know, I still love him.
Less than 6 hours after the accident, the Geico claim adjuster was at my house.
Well, I put on some tangerine lip gloss and answered the door.
Geico service turned out to be the best birthday present I could ever want.
I was one lucky woman.
Geico. Real service, real savings.
Smart Balance Buttery Spread. Cooks like butter, spreads like butter, and tastes like butter, without the cholesterol and high saturated fat. With award-winning taste, endorsed by professional chefs. Smart Balance. You're gonna love that buttery taste.
Are you struggling every month to pay your mortgage, your credit cards, car loans, and other bills? Do you need extra cash right now? Well, with one quick phone call to Ditech.com, we can show you how to lower your total monthly payments, consolidate debts, and refinance to a low fixed rate. We'll also guarantee you the lowest rate and fee, even if you have a credit problem. Make that call to Ditech right now. Call 1-800-71-FIXED or log on to Ditech.com.
For each of us, there's a moment of discovery. We understand that all of life is elemental. And as we marvel at element bonding with element, we soon realize that when you add the human element to the equation, everything changes. Suddenly, all of chemistry illuminates humanity, and all of humanity illuminates chemistry. The human element. Nothing is more fundamental, nothing more elemental.
Are your IRA investments in harmony with your future? Get them back in balance. At E-Trade, you can find premium investment service and advice and free independent research. Roll over your IRA and be well balanced. Click, call, or visit today.
The outcome of critical races in states like Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Montana going to have a lot to do with how President Bush is able to govern during his final 2 years in office. Let's bring in another Floridian, Craig Crawford. He's MSNBC political analyst and columnist for the Congressional Quarterly.
We've got two-thirds of the state covered. You're North Florida, I was Central Florida.
Exactly. You got the I-4 corridor covered. You know, Craig, a lot of people are going to roll their eyes when I say this, but who wins in 2006 may determine who gets elected in 2008. Talk about how wide open that race is and what a Democratic landslide today could mean for candidates 2 years from now.
I tell you, Joe, whichever side wins this thing, it's going to be by such small margins of victory for a majority in either House or Senate. I think Capitol Hill is going to be nothing but a battlefield for the next couple of years, and one of the battles is going to be the presidential campaign. This is the most wide open race we've had in 8 decades for president. By that I mean this is the first time in 80 years neither a sitting president or a sitting vice president has stood for election in either the primaries or the general election. So you have no heir apparent in either side, and that's a wide open race, so everybody's and their brother's running. I've found 26 candidates so far.
And of course, if Republicans win today by some miracle, that's actually Hillary Clinton's greatest hope, because she can run against a corrupt, bloated, out-of-touch Republican Congress. The converse of that, of course, is if you have Speaker Nancy Pelosi 2 years from now, that probably helps Republican candidates, doesn't it?
I actually interviewed one of her high-placed advisors, didn't want to be named, but he told me if Nancy Pelosi becomes Speaker of the House by just a few votes, he says that's our worst-case scenario. They want to run against a Republican Congress, blame them for everything. Conversely, I would say Republicans may actually be better off if Democrats got control than they would if they maintained control with just a 1 or 2 seat margin, because then they wouldn't be able to get anything done, and they'd still get the blame.
And certainly John McCain's camp is thinking that also. They don't want for Hillary Clinton to run against, again, a corrupt Republican Congress. Talk about, let's say the Democrats enjoy a landslide victory tonight, as a lot of people are predicting. Is there a specific conservative candidate in the Republican Party that helps?
That's the most fascinating thing about this race to me, is the wide open seat for that berth in the Republican Party, whoever inherits that conservative chair that George Bush commanded so well. And George Allen had been one of the top candidates for that.
No more.
That's how early this race is. We've already had 2 Virginians drop out, one voluntarily. And Mark Warner's already dropped out on the Democratic side for president, and it looks like Allen may be forced out. And that's an open seat. So you have Sam Brown back at Kansas, one of the conservatives. You have protest candidates like Tom Tancredo, congressman from Colorado. And the one I see emerging as the first one to compete for that chair most effectively is Mitt Romney, the governor of Massachusetts, who's working at that very hard right now.
Wow. And of course, Newt Gingrich also.
Newt Gingrich is in there and pushing World War III to get the national security conservatives.
That'll do it. That'll do it.
Even the neocons might be ready for that. You move beyond Iraq.
Exactly.
Let's have world war.
Exactly. All right. Hey, Craig, thank you so much. And of course, it's on the cover. Give me that real quickly.
Oh, we got him.
Your story on the cover. I'm going to hold it straight up here in front of my face on the cover of Congressional Quarterly. You'll want to check this out. And there's not a glare when you pick it up at the magazine stand like there is here. I'm such an idiot. Anyway, thanks, Greg. There are voting problems, of course, being reported coast to coast. And coming up next, we're going to take you to Washington for the very latest in the battle for the control of Congress and how it may be shaped by some of those voting controversies. That's with Decision 2006. Battleground America continues right here on MSNBC.
I love election night. Before I was on television or before I was a journalist even, I used to just love sitting in a room at night and just flicking the dials around and watching the whole thing right up through midnight. The most exciting election of my lifetime was Richard Nixon against John F. Kennedy in 1960. It was fought to the end. It was so close. And only when we got up in the morning did we know that Kennedy had won. I would urge the person who thinks his vote doesn't matter or her vote doesn't matter to look at how close these elections have gotten.
Okay, girls. This one's for us. It's L'Oreal's new Age Perfect makeup. It helps transform your complexion from dull to radiant. New Age Perfect gets back at those little spots and wrinkles. Now, my skin, I'm talking radiant. New Age Perfect skin supporting and hydrating makeup by L'Oreal.
Indulge in the tranquil scent of magnolia in your clothes. Magnolia and Orange Blossom from Downy Simple Pleasures.
Kids are just better with technology than their parents. Like, by the time I graduate from college, we'll be building clean coal power plants that are pollution-free, and that includes greenhouse gases. Go here, they'll explain it.
Technology has made your morning easier. Why not your shave? The Philips Norelco Smart Touch XL is designed to shave more, with 3 shaving rings in each shaving head, and it stays on your neck, so even tricky hairs are cut. Simplicity is making every stroke count.
I'm Montel Williams. The Partnership for Prescription Assistance is traveling to all 50 states, making stops to help people pay for their medicine.
I was in a lot of pain. I wasn't able to afford my medications, and PPA gave me back my life.
This past year, America's pharmaceutical companies gave away more than $5 billion worth of medicines to people in need.
It has been a lifesaver for me in more ways than one.
If you need help, just call 1-888-4PPA now. The Partnership for Prescription Assistance, on the road to help.
Okay, let's do it. Stand by, Wolf.
Stand by, everyone.
Come to me. Here's my take cue. Music, pull. Straight to you, Wolf. Roll to your one track, go.
Hi, Oregon and Southwest Washington. I'm Wolf Blitzer. In the Situation Room, you see it when we see it. Raw and unfiltered. Join me in the Situation Room weekdays, 4 p.m. on Comcast, Channel 44.
ESPN Monday Night Football, available on ESPN HD.
ESPN, serving sports fans around the world.
Got the HD TV set? Then get the receiver. Call 1-888-COMCAST for all your high-def action.
I'm Margaret Brennan with your CNBC Market Wrap. A hot election day and green arrows across the board on Wall Street. The Dow Jones Industrial Average picking up 64 points. The S&P 500 up by 4. The Nasdaq up by 14 as voters head to polls across the country. The Dow did give back some of those earlier gains, though. FedEx canceling an order for 10 Airbus A380s. Memphis-based FedEx blaming Airbus's production delays. The European jumbo jets are already about 2 years behind schedule. FedEx instead going domestic, calling on Boeing with an order for 15 777s. Microsoft founder Bill Gates joining forces with the Saudi prince to take the swanky Four Seasons hotel chain private. News of that $3 billion offer hit the wires yesterday, but today it sent Four Seasons shares up more than 30%. And Verizon is reportedly in advanced talks with YouTube to bring some of the website's videos to cell phones and TV sets. Now back to MSNBC's nonstop Election Day coverage with Joe Scarborough live at MSNBC World Headquarters.
The first polls are scheduled to close in just a few hours from now, and long lines are being reported as Americans take part in one of the most contentious midterm elections in recent memory. But even before the polls opened today, the potential for voting problems was strong. And sure enough, it appears to be man against machine in Colorado, Connecticut, Florida, Indiana, Missouri, New Mexico, Ohio, Oklahoma, Texas, Utah, and Virginia. Why didn't we just name all 50 states? NBC's Capitol Hill correspondent Chip Reed joins us live from Washington, D.C. Hey, Chip, I am not a Luddite, but I voted on one of these electronic voting machines in Florida early, and it intimidated the hell out of me. I've got to believe that a lot of people were expecting problems from these electronic voting machines well before they were put into place today.
Absolutely, and they're getting about the level of problems they expected. Nothing catastrophic so far, and in almost every state it's the same problem. It's that they try to start the machines up in the morning and something goes wrong, and of course it's virtually always human error. It's poll workers who just don't understand how to do it. These are complicated machines to vote on. Imagine if you had no familiarity with computers like a lot of these elderly poll workers do, and you had to figure out this 26-step process for getting one of these machines going. It's tough, and in a lot of places it's taken a while to get them going, and that's a very bad thing, obviously, because a lot of people can't wait around and they have to go to work, and some places they've decided to keep the polls open later, or they've gone to court and a judge has said keep it open a couple hours later, but some people can't come back. But having said that, this is about on the level that they expected. It's relatively small numbers, nothing catastrophic so far. My favorite story, Joe, somebody spilled coffee and shorted out one of these machines, so they made a new rule at that precinct: no drinking while voting.
No doubt about it. It's so fascinating what you're telling me about the reports that you're getting in today, because last week I talked to my former chief of staff when I was in Congress, who's now a supervisor of elections. He says the biggest impact is that he's afraid that elderly poll watchers are probably not going to be around 5 or 10 years from now, because these electronic voting machines are so complex and so complicated that people didn't grow up with a knowledge of computers may just throw their arms up in the air and say the heck with it.
Absolutely. The average age of a poll worker is about 72, and I'm not slamming elderly people. I have trouble with computers myself. I didn't grow up with computers. I mean, the truth is, it is difficult, and these people get paid something like $150, and you think, well, you go to work for one day. No, they spend days and days trying to figure out how to work these things, so they're performing a great public service, but it is difficult, and in some places it has been more than difficult. It's taken them a couple of hours. They have to call in the experts to get the machines going. But again, nothing catastrophic, but it is early.
And again, Chip, as you said, this is a very complicated process, a very technical process, and certainly it's going to be something we're going to be dealing with for some time. NBC's Chip Reed in Washington, D.C., thank you so much.
You bet.
Hey, with us now on the phone to talk about the prospects for Republicans today is North Carolina Senator Elizabeth Dole. Senator, thanks for being with me. I want to talk to you about a couple of fascinating races that have been breaking the Republicans' way over the past week. Of course, Republicans, we've been hearing for some time, we're going to lose the House and possibly the Senate, but some turnarounds in states like Rhode Island, in Montana, in Maryland. Let's start with Maryland. What in the world is happening in the state of Maryland, where Michael Steele has basically turned this into a deadlock in a state that registers 2-1 for Democrats over Republicans?
I'll tell you, Michael Steele is a dynamic candidate who's giving Marylanders a choice, and he's it's not just more of the same from a career politician like Ben Cardin, who's held office for 40 years now. Michael wants to shake up things, and he has a message of empowerment, educational empowerment, certainly economic empowerment, and his message is resonating across Maryland. Recently he was endorsed by the former Prince George's county executive, Wayne Curry, who's highly respected, and 5 other African-American Democrats on the county council. There are 9 members, and those 5 were with him, as well as Wayne Curry, and it just showed, he's got an ability to attract African-Americans to his campaign that may mean the difference, and he certainly has the momentum. He's a very, very attractive candidate.
Very sharp. And, of course, let's move from Maryland to Montana, where a guy who's not been accused of being sharp in the past, he's basically kept his foot stuck in his mouth through a large part of his Senate career, Conrad Burns. But Conrad Burns also coming back from the political dead. The John Kerry gaffe last week, a visit by the vice president, a visit by the president has turned this race in Montana into a dead heat. What's going on there?
Yes, indeed. And I'll tell you, Conrad Burns really produces for his state. I think back to Malmstrom Air Force Base during the BRAC round and how he took care of that. It's something like $500 million a year and 250 jobs. And, when I've been out campaigning for him again and again, I see the results of all the good work he's done for the state of Montana. So despite an onslaught of paid media full of distortions about about his record. He's neck and neck and looking good.
Well, and despite again some missteps on his part, but I'll tell you, one state where a candidate hasn't had a misstep, again, another late breaker, Lincoln Chafee, a guy who in 2001 told a newspaper that he didn't even vote for George W. Bush, and yet he may be the candidate who ends up saving the president and the Republican majority in the U.S. Senate. What is happening with Lincoln Chafee's getting this second wind?
Well, Link Chafee reflects the views of his state. He's pro-growth. You know, the National Chamber of Commerce has endorsed him and fiscal responsibility. And I think the majority of voters in Rhode Island are independents. They like Link Chafee's record of voting with his state, not party or ideology. And Sheldon Whitehouse's record is really quite an issue in this race. I think most of his tenure as state attorney general was spent prosecuting, not prosecuting graft by public officials, avoiding that because he was afraid he'd upset Democrat Party bosses. So Link has done a good job campaigning hard, and Joe, we're going to keep the majority in the Senate.
Right.
We've got our candidates have been very focused on, comparing, contrasting the choice between our Republicans and their opponent, touting their records, and really drawing the contrast on issues like corruption in New Jersey, issues that are important to folks in that particular state.
All right, Senator Elizabeth Dole, they're telling me that we have to go. We're coming up on a hard break, but I got to tell you, you took over this position of running the Republican Senate Committee, the most brutal of political years, and yet it looks like you may pull out a win tonight, maybe by a small margin, but certainly some things are breaking your way in some key states. Thanks for being with us today.
You bet, Joe. It's great to talk with you.
All right,
Bye now.
Great talking to you, too. Good luck. And President Bush's name, of course, isn't on the ballot anywhere in America today, but as millions of Americans go to the poll, many are considering the president's performance over the past 6 years and what that could mean for today's midterm elections. With me now to talk about the president's impact on this election is NBC presidential historian Michael Beschloss. Michael, can you compare another point in time in history when the midterms were such a direct referendum on failed policies of a president? Like a lot of people are saying, this election is going to be a referendum on the president's failed policy in Iraq.
Well, there are a number of them, but the most recent is one that you remember very well, which is 1994. I seem to remember that was the year you got first elected to the House. Am I right?
That's exactly right, on the issue of Bill Clinton's presidency.
That's it. And I seem also to remember, I think you were the first Republican elected from that district since 1870s?
1872, and they hung the last Republican that got elected there. So, it had been a very long time.
So, well, that's it. So if Bill Clinton had not been so unpopular that year, how would your election have gone?
Oh, there's no doubt about it. And, Michael, what I'm also telling people today is that on the Friday before the election, I had a 51 to 49% lead.
Yep.
Election day, I won 62 to 38% because it was one of those wave years. And that's the question today. Does it seem like there's going to be this big wave against President Bush?
It does, because, it's got the ingredients that you saw in 94, also 1946, somewhat in 1966, and that is president who's very unpopular, a feeling that the country is on the wrong track, a party which is the president's that has owned Congress for a very long time, and something else that you didn't see in 46 or 94, and that is a very unpopular war in Iraq.
And Michael, I love the story that you told the other day about sometimes, Senator Paul Simon said in politics, sometimes when you lose, you win.
Yeah.
We talked about 1946 earlier this week, and of course in 1948, the fact that Republicans took control of Congress helped Harry Truman get elected. He talked about that do-nothing Republican Congress. Talk about how sometimes a party's president losing control of Congress ends up helping him out in the end.
Absolutely, because right now, this year, the Democrats can say, have you had enough of these Republicans? They have been in control for 12 years. Look at all the things that are wrong. And against that, all they have to do is suggest that they'll do better. But once they're in power, they're going to have to produce. And if they don't, they're going to have an enormous opening for a Republican in 2008 to say, see, the Democrats told you they would do A and B and C, but they couldn't produce.
And what's the history of, let's say, a liberal Nancy Pelosi taking over the speakership. Whether she enacts any liberal policies or not, or whether she's just a technical, efficient leader of that House, which most of her allies say she's going to be, does that make the Republican Party become more conservative in reaction to that, or John McCain a more conservative candidate? How does that sort of thing play out in the balancing act of American politics?
If the Republicans are smart, they're going to take a leaf from Bill Clinton in 1995 and 1996 and triangulate. If the Democrats seem further left than they've gotten elected on, should they be elected to the leadership of the House this year, it's an enormous opening for Republican leaders to say, you know, the election of 2006 was a vote for a nicer tone in Washington, more cooperation, more moderation. If they do that, they can make it very possible for a Republican to be elected president in 08.
All right, presidential historian Michael Beschloss, thank you so much for being with us. I really do appreciate it.
My pleasure.
All right, and coming up next, the Santorum Casey race in Pennsylvania. Any surprises expected there? We're going to be asking NBC's Lisa Daniels, who's in Pittsburgh, Santorum territory, when we return to Decision 2006, Battleground America.
Take, take, take. That's what some cleansers do. Luckily, there's new Olay Hydrate and Cleanse. Its Olay Moisture refortifies your skin. So get a cleanser that actually gives more than it takes.
It's time to play Take on Orbitz. This week's winner is you. That's right, you.
Orbitz Passport to Savings. Save $200 on qualifying trips to any international destination. Only when you Orbitz and go.
And don't forget your toothbrush.
See, kids? Isn't this better than flying? Yeah. Look, vagabonds.
Couldn't you use your credit card miles, huh?
Yeah, they blacked us out.
You should switch to Capital One.
What smells like old cheese?
Oh, that's just Earl.
Oh, it's just Earl, honey. Get Capital One's no hassle rewards with no blackout dates, no earn caps, and no miles expiration. This is our stop! You want to hit the ground rolling!
Okay!
Ooh.
What's in your wallet?
So, what kind of financial help are you looking for? Maybe you need insurance to help protect you. Benefits to help your business reach new heights. Or a retirement plan to invest for the future. Then again, maybe there's someone who can help with all of those things. The Principal Financial Group will give you an edge.
I couldn't quite believe it. One little pill a day helped my heartburn go away. The problem was it came back. It broke through, especially at night. Then I found this, Mylanta Ultimate Strength. It's something new for heartburn, even the kind that breaks through. Mylanta's really fast, and my doctor said I could take it even though I'm on a daily medicine.
When heartburn breaks through, try new Mylanta Ultimate Strength. Look for our coupon in this Sunday's paper.
When something really fits, you can feel it, like the fit you get with C-Bond denture adhesive. It's the only wafer that has a gasket effect that locks dentures in place. Only C-Bond gives you all-over coverage, all-over hold in a wafer. No mess, no ooze.
When your dentures really fit, you can feel it.
Now, lock dentures in place with C-Bond, the adhesive wafer with the gasket fit. C-Bond.
Ever get the feeling your advertising is reaching the wrong people? Comcast Spotlight can help. With dozens of networks to choose from, you can run your message only on the shows your customers are watching. You can even target your message geographically to reach your customers where they live. Comcast Spotlight. TV advertising without the waste.
For more information, call our Portland office.
If you're looking for a better way to find and hire smart local employees, then you need to know about us. We're PortlandJobFinder.com and brought to you in partnership with Comcast Spotlight.
Portland Job Finder's been excellent for our organization. We're a new company here in the Northwest and looking to fill key vital roles. The staff at Portland Job Finder has been excellent and been very professional and courteous in helping us establish our goals and meeting them.
PortlandJobFinder.com, the faster, more effective way to find local employees.
Are turning out.
We are finding in Democratic precincts there is very good turnout. Now, I'll give a cautionary note. You know, we don't know turnout numbers. They're not sent in, so it's anecdotal. But we are feeling very good about that.
That was Democratic Senator Chuck Schumer with an optimistic outlook of both voter turnout and his party's prospects for taking back Congress. Let's go now to the Keystone State, which could be a key win for Democrats on this election day. Well, it looks like the governor's seat's going to stay, actually it says stay in Republican hands. I think the governor's seat is going to go overwhelmingly Democratic. Democrats are also hoping 1 Senate and 4 congressional seats will go true blue. NBC's Lisa Daniels is in Pittsburgh. Lisa, Bob Casey came in today with a double-digit lead. Is there any reason to believe there's going to be a November surprise?
Well, Santorum's people say you better count on it, Joe. In fact, Senator Santorum's people say he is the ultimate closer. He knows how to pull in the votes when it really does count. But again, those latest polls say exactly what you said, Joe, that the Democratic challenger, Bob Casey, has a substantial double-digit lead. And I asked Santorum about it, and he dismissed it. He said that his own polls show a much tighter race, and he said voter turnout will be key here. He turned around to the phone bank, to those many volunteers, and said, they are my secret weapon. They've been working these phones ferociously for the last 72 hours. They're going to bring home the gold for me. As for Casey, he says he is feeling good, and his aides point out to me that if the number of people attending Casey's events in the last week is any indication, then this race is theirs. But the bottom line here, Joe, the significance is that Senator Santorum is the number 3 Senate Republican. A loss for him is a loss for President Bush, and also a signal that the conservative wing of the Republican Party may be losing favor. But again, Senator Santorum's people keep on reminding us, do not dismiss him. He earned the title comeback kid for a reason. Joe? All
right, Lisa Daniels, if he's the comeback kid this year, we're going to put the crown on him for the ultimate comeback. I don't think I've seen anybody close 13 points in the last 8. Thanks so much, NBC's Lisa Daniels. Now, we're hearing plenty of scenarios out there, but any possible power shift is going to create a ripple effect on issues like Iraq, immigration, and taxes. Pat Buchanan and Bob Schramm are both MSNBC political analysts, and they both join me now. Pat, it's looking like the Democrats are going to have a chance to impact those issues, Iraq, immigration, taxes, you name it. A lot of anecdotal evidence coming in today that doesn't really look good for the Republican Party, does it?
Well, it looks like the Democrats are going to take the House, and quite frankly, it is still looking like, the way we talked last night, Link Chafee may be our only chance of holding the Senate. As of now, late polls. But take the tax issue, Joe. I don't think the Democrats have the capacity to raise taxes over a presidential veto in a Republican Senate, or even 50 Republicans in the Senate. The only thing that might happen is they say, Mr. President, you want an extension on your taxes for the middle class and for families. Okay, raise the top rate from 35 to 38 or 39.
Right, and of course,
and we'll give it to you.
And possibly say you're also going to have to attach a minimum wage amendment that will make a minimum wage a working wage.
I think they'll get a minimum wage. I really do.
Yeah. I think so. But sticking with it today, Bob Schramm, again, throughout, it is important to remember that at this time in 2004, John Kerry was president-elect of the United States.
No one is more acutely aware of that than I am, except maybe John Kerry.
I mean, you were trying to figure out which office you were going to have.
I wasn't going to the White House.
But things obviously can change very quickly. But anecdotal evidence coming in, if you look at the long lines, if you look at the weather patterns, if you look at the voting patterns, it certainly looks like a big Democratic day.
Look, I think there's no doubt we're going to take the House. I think the fact that Pat is rooting for Lincoln Chafee as the salvation of the Republicans in the Senate tells you how desperate that situation is. I think we could take the Senate. And I think this will have an impact on policy. I think, for example, that if the Democrats take the House and the Senate, certainly, but if they take just the House, George Bush is going to be saved, and pardon me, Pat, from the extremists on immigration who want to pass the kind of immigration bill that will drive Hispanics away from the Republican Party.
But again, you say the extremists on immigration, and you say, excuse me, Pat, but Pat Buchanan speaks for about 85% of Americans who believe that our immigration system is broken.
There was actually about a 62% support in the last poll I saw for the McCain-Kennedy bill, which is the bill that Bush wanted.
Let me tell you something.
Don't switch out a host into advocate, Joe.
No, I'm not. I'm just telling you, though, as a host/analyst, If the Democratic Party supports George W. Bush's amnesty plan, it's the worst thing that could happen for him.
Let me tell you what the stakes are for Bush, and this, I think Bush understands this, and Rove does too. If the Republican Party goes down the Tom Tancredo road, I won't say the Pat Buchanan road, the Tom Tancredo road, then the state of Texas over the next 8 to 10 years will become a Democratic state.
Well,
you'll see realignment. You'll see realignment in this country again.
You look at the Sun Belt, and we don't want to get into an immigration debate here. Nobody knows it more than you, Pat Buchanan. But you are seeing explosive Hispanic growth across the Southwest, across Texas, which is why Karl Rove has shifted, and George Bush. They both shifted their emphasis on immigration. But Pat Buchanan, I want to talk about George Bush as governor of Texas. He was actually very effective working with the Democratic Party. He may have to do that for 2 years on immigration or other issues, right?
Well,
we got to go, Pat. Go ahead.
The problem on immigration is, look, 80 to 85% of the country is against amnesty and a guest worker program. Bush and the McCain, Kennedy types would get defeated in the Congress of the United States. If they try it, Joe, it is dead. That battle is over.
It's not amnesty, by the way. But let me tell you, there's one other effect. Pat's right about one thing. There's not going to be a big tax increase.
I'm told we got to go. Thanks so much, Bob Shrum, Pat Buchanan. We'll see you all soon. I'm Joe Scarborough. That's going to do it for this hour. My colleague Tucker Carlson takes over coverage at the top of the hour. Tucker with a tie. You're going to like what you see. You're watching MSNBC's all-out continuing coverage of Decision 2006, Battleground America.
MSNBC tops months of the best campaign coverage ever with the biggest night of election coverage ever. Williams, Russert, Matthews, and the most powerful political team with coverage that will not stop until you know who's in control of Congress. Election night, all night, right here on MSNBC, the place for politics.
Be brilliant and maximize the potential value of all the cash in your account. Be in command and make sure you get the most value of every dollar you borrow. Be powerful and do it all with complete ease. In other words, be master of your domain.
Oh, there's my earring.
The Intelligent Lending Optimizer and Intelligent Cash Optimizer. Only at E-Trade.
Kids are just better with technology than their parents. Like, by the time I graduate from college, we'll be building clean coal power plants that are pollution-free, and that includes greenhouse gases. Go here, they'll explain it.
Sonicare is a part of good overall health. Its patented technology creates dynamic cleaning action, getting deep between the teeth and along the gum line. Sonicare. Help take care of your body.
Rick Wilcoxon is a real Geico customer, not an actor. So to help tell a story, we hired an actor.
Originally, I switched to Geico to save money, but then I was in an accident.
Yeah, that's right. I was in an accident.
I got on the phone and called Geico.
Yeah. Hello. Hey, how's it going?
After a few days, I had my repair check. It was fantastic.
Yeah, I got the check. Got my car fixed. It's my birthday. Fixed my bumper. New taillights.
Geico. Real service, real savings.
It's my birthday.
Destination 8 miles.
But every once in a while, you do learn something. Like, did you know we've got more coal in America than the Middle East has oil? We've got like a 250-year supply. Now that's worth knowing. Here, I'll tell you more.